Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Let's take a look at this first pack, or rare being Isareth the Awakener. It's not a bad one. What else do we have? Got a Luminous Bonds, Reclamation Sage, and it's probably just Isareth here. Hope to wheel maybe a Vampire Neonate. I doubt Gravedigger wheels. It's also a good one. Ooh, well, it's a pretty easy Windreader Sphinx. Not sure what the bots took over it. Is there any uncommon that you would take over Windreader Sphinx? Maybe like a Murderer, but even then. Well, let's take the Sphinx here and then move into a nice blue-black control deck. Divination looks good here. Skyrider Patrol does have a lot of upside, but I think if we can stick to just blue-black, that's probably going to be better. Could of course still take the Patrol in case we end up blue-green and don't end up playing Isareth. And then Patrol plus Sphinx also has a good synergy. But for now I think we just stick to Divination. It's just a strong card by itself. Whether or not we end up blue-black or blue-green, it's still going to be solid. And Salvager of Secrets is usually pretty good in blue-black, since not only do you get the blue card draw and counter spells that you can get back, but maybe also some black removal spells that you can recycle from the graveyard. Hardblade also pretty decent with all the counter spells, since if you don't need to use a counter spell, you can just flash in a 3/2. So also a card we're looking to maybe wheel. Alright, so what do we have here? Another Divination would be excellent. Submerged Boneyard for mana fixing would also be quite good. So apparently the bot took Ravenous Harpy and then either Enigma Drake or Felspectre, so black might be cut off if they took a Harpy and then a Felspectre, for example. But we're not going to let that influence us too much. If black does end up being cut off, then Submerged Boneyard's not too interesting. Probably just want to stick to the Divination, so I guess we can use it as a tiebreaker here. Just take another Divination. Alright, I am a fan of Vampire Neonate in these types of decks, just an early blocker and then late game. Plays well with counter spells and can gain us a bit of life back. Child of Night, 1 toughness is kind of lackluster in M19 in general. But if there wasn't a Vampire Neonate in this pack, we would maybe take the Child. Some decent options here. Cancels, decent. There's an Epicure to synergize with our Vampire Neonate. Macabre Waltz is a nice card to play late in the game to get some creatures back that may have perished, although it can be awkward against a deck full of Luminous Bonds. And then Mind Rot is worse than Divination, but sometimes you'll play it. Kind of leaning Cancel over Epicure here, but it's close. Cancel has more synergy with Salvager, plays well with Neonate. Epicure also plays well with Neonate. So far the only life gain we have is from the Neonate itself. I think I prefer Cancel. We're also more blue than black at this point, so taking an extra blue card makes sense. This pack is pretty empty. I don't think I'm playing Duress if I take it. Could take a random Field Creeper if we somehow end up with no 2-drops, or maybe some artifact synergies. Or we could take an uncommon for the Vault. I think I'll take a Field Creeper. And not much here. We wheeled Satyr Enchanter out of the first pack. Guess I'll take an uncommon for the Vault. Is there any chance we pivot out of black and into like white, where we maybe want Inspire Charge? Seems unlikely, given our more controlling nature of the blue. So probably just take the uncommon for the Vault. And then Two-Headed Zombie could be a curve filler. Not much here. And never playing a Sovereign's Bite. So I guess I'll take a Sentinel just in case we somehow end up in green. It's a reasonable 2-drop. Yeah, I guess I'll take a Falcon just in case, but Infectious Horror is probably worse than the rest. Alright. So reasonable first pack, could use a bit of removal, don't have many of those so far. Some Aston Scatters would be nice. We're pretty far away from Gigantosaurus, sadly. Luminous Bonds is pretty strong. There's Surge Mare, which would be decent, just an early blocker that we can sink mana into later in the game. Scholar for those artifact synergies, but so far we only have a Field Creeper, so probably just taking the Surge Mare here. Black Rare, sadly not a very good one. What do we have? Not much, this pack is kind of weak for us. Could take a Sea Serpent as a random 6-drop. Curve Filler. Let's take a Serpent. It's a pretty late Enigma Drake. I guess there's still a chance we can pivot into red instead of black. Black has been pretty empty, although there is a Skeleton Archer, which is okay. Bookcase if we wanted an extra defender. Also an artifact for potential artifact synergies. So I don't mind kind of taking the Enigma Drake, and then if red ends up being more open than black, we pivot into red. Because like Archer's fine, but it's not like we're gonna miss it too much if we don't take it here. I think it's worth speculating. Since Drake would be actively good in our deck with all these instants and sorceries, with our Windreader Sphinx. Now what do we have? Good cards in the pack. Include Angel of the Dawn. And then there's some okay cards in Snapping Drake, which is probably the pick here. Bone to Ash is pretty expensive. Like, of course, if you do get to counter a creature and then draw a card, it feels great. It's like casting a Cryptic Command in Limited. But 4 mana is a lot to keep up, so you really need to make sure you have a lot of instants that you can play alongside Bone to Ash, which isn't always the case. It's way easier to keep up Acid Scatter than it is Bone to Ash. So I think we just take the flyer here. And then maybe hope to wheel Hired Blade if we are still playing black. Maybe Tormenting Voice if we're still red. I think I'm taking the Acid Scatter here. Already have 2 Divinations. Might end up taking another one at some point. And I think Acid Scatter over Snapping Drake. We just picked up a Snapping Drake. Already have a decent number of expensive creatures. Just want a cheaper counterspell to go with our Salvager of Secrets as well. And what do we have here? No great red cards. Scholar of Stars doesn't have many artifact friends. There's Doom Dissenter as just a reasonable 2-drop creature to help us play defense. Don't think we want a Bog Stomper. Usually Serpent's better. Can take a Highland Lake in case we either end up splashing red or end up blue-red instead of blue-black. Pretty happy with another cancel. And nothing here really. Could take a random 2 mana 2/2. We are pretty low on cheap creatures, so could see taking the Walking Corpse because of that. Nothing here. Another Serpent, I doubt we'll play 2. Definitely not playing 3, so I'll take a Speculative Tormenting Voice. So it's more likely that we just end up blue-black, but we do have a few ways to maybe pivot into red if we open some great red card, like a Demanding Dragon for example. Then we could still move into blue-red instead. Alright, Mystic Archaeologist is pretty good, plays well with the counter spells we already have, and it's still just a 2-drop if we need a 2-drop. So probably taking that, hoping to wheel Dwindle. Another Divination would be great, another Acid Scatter would be great. Gargoyle is also decent, but gotta go with the Archaeologist here I think. We are pretty far away from Phylactery Lich, since we don't have any artifacts. Triple black's kinda difficult on the mana. Dwindle seems totally fine here. Nice removal spell for our deck. It's a pretty late Herald of Faith, great card. We have to decide between probably Drake and Dwindle. And we're probably leaning towards Dwindle here. So let's take out the red card, since I don't think that's happening. Could use a bit more top end. Drake would be decent in our deck too. Like, Dwindle gives us a removal spell in case we can't keep up a cancel or an Essence Scatter during a turn, and we can still get rid of something problematic. So I kind of like the Dwindle here, but I would definitely like another Snapping Drake in our deck too. What's up with all these late Ajani's? Like, I remember this happening in the previous draft format when M19 was on Arena, with all these ridiculously late Ajani's, facing Ajani in draft way more than you should. And this is now the second Ajani in 3 drafts that we're getting 3rd, 4th pick. I mean, is that worth moving into white for? Maybe. Did pick up a Rustwing Falcon, Pack Beast, Dwarven Priest, so we've got a few white cards in our sideboard. And it's not like we're really giving up on much. There's no blue or black cards I would want here, so at the very least it's just a bunch of free gems. We'll see.
Our kinship ensures our victory.
Still possible we pivot into white instead of black. Alright, another Dwindle seems okay here, over Waltz. Alright, this is kind of the decision. Do we take the Cavalry, move into blue-white? Or do we take like a Waltz and stick to black? I kind of like moving into blue-white. Add a Falcon. Pack Beast doesn't seem too interesting since we don't have any artifacts, but maybe Dwarven Priest makes a cut. And then we'll cut to black. Let's take a Cavalry. Another Enigma Drake, jeez. But there's also a Take Vengeance, which seems pretty good here now that we pivoted into white. Over Bone to Ash. Seems reasonable. Yeah, if we need 3 mana 2/3, we can always play the trusty Pack Beast. We'll see. I guess we're kind of low on playables, so we might have to play the Pack Beast after all. Alright, I don't think this is an Inspired Charge deck. We're kind of low on creatures, got a lot of counter spells and card draw. And it does make Ajani a little awkward in this deck. We had a deck before where we had a few too many removal spells and not enough creatures to synergize with Ajani. It's looking a little bit better now. So I think we just take the cancel here. Not much here. Take a Swift Claw, I guess. I don't think we want Mighty Leap. Alright. Yeah, I think we might actually play this Wall of Mist. Alright, let's take a look here. So we need one more playable. And that is with a Swift Claw and a Wall of Mist in our deck. Dwarven Priest as well. So we could play a Pack Beast, we could main deck an Invoke. I kind of like that idea since there's so many Luminous Bonds and Dwindles being played. So one Invoke main deck doesn't sound terrible. Could also play another Serpent, but our curve is already kind of high. Yeah, I mean, we could consider splashing the Drake. I don't think that's really necessary with only Highland Lake. Need double white for Ajani. I'm not into splashing the Drake. Yeah, Revitalize could be okay. Might be better than a Swift Claw. Don't have any Pegasus Coursers to jump the Swift Claw. Don't have any Starcrowned Stags to tap down any blockers. Alright, so this is probably our deck, favoring blue mana for the early Surge Mares and all the double blue for cancel. Don't think we can go 7-10 since we do need double white for Ajani still. But yeah, our deck was almost mono blue. Then we got a late Ajani and we picked it up. Otherwise we would have probably been blue-black, but we didn't have many black cards, so black did get cut off. So the bots did indeed probably take Harpy and then Fel Spectre and moved into black. So we didn't get past many black cards in the first and third pack. Which makes sense. Alright, I think this is it. Alright, there's a Jan in our opening hand. Just need one more planes to cast it. Got a Surge Mare on 2. Seems okay. Archaeologist is tempting too, but we might actually activate the Surge Mare to dig for lands. And if this gets Essence Scattered, I think I would rather keep the Archaeologist. Death Baron, alright. Doesn't have Death Touch itself. So we could attack into it with the Surge Mare, but now we also picked up Cancel that we could keep up, so this is interesting. Like, we would like to dig for white mana so we can cast a Jani. Let's say we fail to draw land next turn, we could still attack with the Surge Mare, and then pump it, and then potentially still play Archaeologist afterwards. So I think I like keeping up. Cancel, and then just keep the Surge Mare back on defense, and probably canceling anything relevant. Yeah, that's relevant enough. Alright, well, Plains is a great draw. Now we just get to slam a Jani.
I understand you are in need of support. Look how far you have come.
Alright, Gearsmith Guardian, picked up another Cancel, don't have a land to play so we can't go Archaeologist, keep up Cancel sadly. Think we just want to get more bodies in place, so probably just gonna go Priest and then put counters on both.
Strength is born of struggle.
And then next turn, depending on the situation, we'll try and keep up Cancel to make sure we can ultimate a Jani. If they play a flyer here, we might have to dwindle it. Lich's Caress. Do they send them both, or... Alright, opponent wants to trade away the Death Baron just to get some damage on a Jani. That's fine by me.
Perhaps there is a peaceful solution.
Falcon, alright. So we get to play Falcon, keep up Cancel here. It would be nice to get the Archaeologist down, so when we do eventually draw 5th land, we can both keep up the ability and Cancel. But I think this is fine for now.
Be strong.
And then if we draw 5th land, we can play Salvager, get back a Cancel. And our opponent has seen enough, alright. A Jani, turn 4. Carries us to victory once again. Alright, and looks okay. Got an Essence Scatter into Dwindle. Turn 1 Fountain out of a red deck is a little bit unusual. Alright, red-green. Turn 2 Druid is definitely scary. Yeah, I think we'll counter that, prevent the card draw. Opponent could definitely play bigger, scarier things than Sky Scanners, but it's an efficient use of our mana. Could invoke the Fountain if we wanted to. Red-green's not gonna have any enchantment-based removal spells. I mean, there's a small chance they have some crazy enchantment like Sarkhan's Unsealing, or the green enchantment that draws cards if you have creatures with power 4 or greater. But overall, casting Invoke on the Fountain's probably okay here. Question is, do we do it now, or do we bluff having a counterspell up? I think we bluff having a counterspell. The 1 life is not going to matter too much. Our deck usually wins by a large margin instead of a close race. Centaur Courser, sure. Yeah, they could have auras like Oakenform. It's definitely a consideration too. I think we still invoke here. We're gonna be tapping out the next few turns. I'm gonna play Drake into Salvager, and if our opponent does play an aura, we can always get back invoke with the Salvager. And given a chance, I think I do trade Courser for Drake. Ooh, wow, Demanding Dragon. That's a good one. No attacks. Alright, so let's dwindle the dragon. The alternative would be Salvager, get back Acid Scatter. Then we take a beating from the dragon this turn, and then next turn we can dwindle and still have Acid Scatter up. Doesn't sound amazing. Problem with dwindle here is that it's not a very efficient use of our mana. If we dwindle this turn, then next turn what's our plan? We could either Salvager, get back Acid Scatter, or we could Divination and then hope to draw into something. We might draw into a cancel next turn and a land. There's definitely some merit to playing the Salvager here instead, but let's hang back. Rabbit Bite kills the Drake. That's why they didn't trade last turn. But yeah, if we didn't dwindle last turn, we would be taking 9 damage here. We would be so far behind. Now it's not too bad. We've got 6 mana, so if we Divination, we're pretty likely to be able to play Sphinx next turn. And we might draw into something with the Divination too. If we play Salvager, we get to keep up Acid Scatter next turn. I think I just like Divination here. Since we're going to be tapping out for Sphinx on 7, so we won't even keep up the Acid Scatter we get back with the Salvager anyway. Alright, another dwindle, revitalize. Don't think we need to dwindle the Courser, I'm just gonna revitalize here. Wow, that's a good one. Alright, we might have to change plans here. We also didn't draw a 7th land, so we can't even play the Sphinx. We can dwindle Goreclaw, doesn't take away the ability. So that's still going to be relevant if they draw some large creatures in the future. But it does stem the bleeding for the moment. And then we can play a Surge Mare as well to block the Courser. Seems decent. Surge Mare can be blocked by green creatures, can still be blocked by the dragon ones. Or we could get the Archaeologist down. So I'll just play the Surge Mare. Dwindle Goreclaw. Since Goreclaw of course pumps itself, so it could attack past our Surge Mare. And hope that the opponent doesn't draw any more large creatures. Since Courser and Druid, block Courser, take 1. Najani, no double white. So this is a little awkward. Surge Mare still wants to play defense. If we play Archaeologist, we can't activate it right away. So what's the play here? We could play Salvager, and then either get back Revitalize to kind of gain a bit of life back, help us hit our land drops. We could go for Acid Scatter for future creatures. We could get Divination to draw more cards. I think it's between Acid Scatter and Revitalize here, probably leaning Acid Scatter. And hope to dodge a big creature this turn. Alright, still nothing. But now we get to play Archaeologists, and we get to leverage the Archaeologist if our opponent doesn't play into our Acid Scatter. Could just jam a Serpent as well, which is reasonable too. Serpent probably bigger than most creatures the opponent plays. If they play like a Colossal Dreadmaw, we're gonna regret not keeping up Acid Scatter. I think we play Archaeologist and keep up Acid Scatter here. Then the question is, once we do draw, a 7th land, do we play the Sphinx? If we draw White Source, we can play a Ajani and keep up Acid Scatter, which is a pretty efficient use of our resources. Alright, so I think playing a Ajani, keeping up Acid Scatter makes sense here. And then we have to figure out what we want to pump. Probably Salvager, and then Surge Mare, I guess. Don't need to put a lot of extra counters on Archaeologist, since it's already pretty valuable. And we're gonna try and keep up Acid Scatter for as long as possible here. Try and hit some land drops so we can play something alongside Acid Scatter in the same turn, but that's gonna prompt a concession. Alright, sweet. Yeah, this seems okay. Cancel is a bit slow on the draw. If our opponent curves 2-drop into 3-drop, we're gonna be a bit behind, but we've got Dwindle to catch back up and Cavalry. So I think we keep this. Turn 1 Falcon is not what we want to face. And this looks like another 2-drop. Alright, so opponent curving out with a 1-drop and a 2-drop is the opposite of what we wanted to face here, with double cancel in hand. So we might be in trouble. Courser too. And of course if we dwindle the Courser, they can still attack and give a creature flying, so it doesn't really help all that much. Yeah, this is bad. We could dwindle the Sentinel just so they don't hit us for as much. Then they're just hitting us for 2, or we can keep up cancel. Next turn we get to play Cavalry, but then they're just flying over with 4 damage. Kind of dead here on turn 3 already. Probably need to dwindle the Sentinel, but I don't love it, because now they can potentially resolve a 4-drop that they get to give flying with the Courser. Novice Knights, not an issue unless they can enchant it. Can't attack by itself. So if they don't have another creature here, then we have their clock by using Dwindle on the Sentinel. Night Splash on the Falcon, so they're still hitting us for 4. So now we gotta hope to draw a removal spell for this Falcon, and then we might be okay. Now the question is cancel or Cavalry. Problem with Cavalry is that it doesn't really block anything from the opponent, so I would rather just keep up cancel. But yeah, we're taking 4 a turn, so this is a 3-turn clock. Need to find an answer ASAP. Opponent does nothing. Divination to draw. So again, we can keep up cancel. We can play Divination to dig for an answer. So let's see, what kind of answers are we digging for with Divination? Another Dwindle would be nice. Invoke the Divine could kill the Night Splash and buy us some time. Those are 3 mana answers. So we could still draw into them with Divination next turn and play them. If we Divination into Acid Scatter, we can still play it. So there's reasons to do both here. We do have a Take Vengeance we could draw as well. Yeah, I guess we'll Divination now. Alright, Rustwing Falcon can prevent 1 damage. Down to 5. Opponent's got nothing. Probably still keeping up cancel. Should have definitely played an island last turn instead of the plains. We're definitely not outracing our opponents, so the only way we win is by somehow answering the Rustwing Falcon and stabilizing. So I think we just say go here. Not quite chum blocking yet. Opponent could have maybe some pump spells that they were waiting on. Doesn't pull the trigger quite yet. Salvager can get back Divination, but yeah, now we have to chum block the Falcon and fall to 1. So I guess we salvage or get back Divination, and then next turn Divination could draw us into the answer we were looking for. But we would go shields down on cancel. Or we could play Cavalry and keep up cancel. I mean, our opponent's not been doing anything. They didn't seem to have any instant speeds interaction. So I'm just gonna tap out for Salvager here. But we're dead to anything here. Looks like a Luminous Bonds on the Falcon incoming. Alright, well. Opponent had a nice 1-2-3 curve, then they didn't do much for the rest of the game, but we still didn't find an answer. And looks decent. That's a nice draw. So now we just want to draw some lands, basically. No 1-drops we can draw into with the Revitalize, so just gonna get in for 1. Yep. And I think I'm fine using a Dwindle on this Devils. And next turn we can draw 2 with the Archaeologist. So hopefully it doesn't die. Red-green's gonna be able to play some big creatures here. Ooh, a Jani. So does that change our plan? If we Jani plus, we would have to double block the Fire Elemental. So a Jani doesn't line up all that well here. Drawing 2 with Archaeologist might just be better. And then wait for a Jani until the board is a little bit more stable. And Jani also means we can get back Archaeologist if it dies. And then we can attack with a Falcon or leave it back to maybe block a Druid or the Cowl. Probably attack. Ooh, declare dominance. Yep. We're slowly working our way up towards the Windreader Sphinx, can play the next turn. So now we could Ajani minus get back Archaeologists. Ajani dies to the Fire Elemental. I guess that's an okay exchange. And then we've got the Sphinx as a play next turn. Would be better if we can play the Sphinx and then play Ajani. But we might not have time to do that. And I'll keep the Falcon back to block the Druid of the Cowl. Could always chump the Elemental, of course. And then next turn play Sphinx and put a counter on it. Could be better. Yeah, that's probably worth it here. Titanic Growth, alright, I mean, at least we got rid of the Titanic Growth, so now the Windreader Sphinx more likely to hold off the Fire Elemental. So we'll jam the Sphinx. Of course, Rustwing Falcon would have synergized nicely with the Sphinx as well, but gotta hope Sphinx stabilizes us here. And then we can take over the game with Archaeologists. Brute attacks. Alright. We're looking good here. So just gonna keep up cancel, and we can cancel. Sadly, we don't have quadruple blue, so we can't cancel and activate Archaeologist. But I guess we could have activated Archaeologist before playing the plains in case we drew an island. But this seems fine. Just keep up cancel. If we don't have to play it, then we get to use Archaeologist. If we have to use cancel, we can get it back with Salvager later. And we're still at 19, so the Sphinx should be able to hold off any attacks. Alternatively, we could play Salvager and get back our Vitalize. Could be reasonable too, since the Salvager blocks the Rocks Oracle. But the Sphinx already eats the Rocks Oracle, so I think this is fine. And we'll see what they want to do here. More Rocks Oracles. I think that's okay. We could cancel it, but then we don't get to use Archaeologist. I think I prefer drawing 2, and then Salvager trades for a Rocks Oracle anyway. Take 3. Alright, there's islands. Cavalry is also an excellent pickup. So now we can play Cavalry and then still keep up cancel on Archaeologists, which is perfect here. Since we have Archaeologists drawing us cards, I don't feel too compelled to attack with the Sphinx. If we didn't have the card draw from Archaeologist, then it would be tempting to maybe get in an attack with the Sphinx to draw some cards. Onake Ogre is fine. At some point we do need to actually win the game here. Don't have a Jani to rely on. Would like to get the Salvager in play just for the 2/2 body, but there's nothing great to get back at the moment. I guess with double cancel in hand that might be fine. To just get a Revitalize here, for example. Could cast a Divination. More cancels. I guess Serpent's one way to win a game. Don't want to go shields down on cancel though. So we'll probably wait a turn to play that. Do we just dwindle the Fire Elemental here? Might be okay. Alright. So should have enough defense here that we're pretty safe. Don't want to attack with the Vigilance creatures, otherwise I get to double block with Druid and a 1/1, which isn't great for us. But next turn we get to play Serpent, still keep up counter spells. And we get to start attacking with the Sphinx. It is a May ability, so we don't have to draw a card, but at 14 remaining, I'll still happily draw a card here. And yeah, with triple cancel and a Salvager to get one back. Opponent needs some uncounterable plays. So unless they have a Banefire, but it's gotta be a Banefire for 16. And our opponent packs them up. Yeah, I guess we'll keep this. Some removal, eventually a Sphinx. Lines up pretty poorly against any go wide strategy with a bunch of tokens. Turn 2 Pride Maid. Alright. It's probably gonna end up dying to our Take Vengeance at some point, if they make it bigger. Opponent on Abzan, Bugler. Alright, that's a good one. Hopefully it misses. So just a 2/3 Vigilance here. So we don't know how highly we need to value this Pridemate. Would like to keep up Cancel. Next turn we can play Dwarven Priest to block. If they kill the Priest, then we're taking quite a bit of damage. So we might be better off just using the Take Vengeance on the Pridemate. Yeah, I think that's probably safer. We don't get to counter their next play. But this way, we're not taking as much damage if they answer the Priest. Talons of Wildwoods, perfect target for Dwindle. Alright, opponent's going all in. Hopefully they don't have a disenchant for the Dwindle here, but just gonna jam it. And now they have to block with the Bugler before they can get their Talons back. So this lined up pretty well if they can't answer the Dwindle. Nice, 3 for 1. Alright, so how much mana are we working with here? 5. So we're still pretty far away from playing Priest and Cancel in the same turn. So I think it's acceptable to just play the Priest to block theirs. And then next turn we'll have Cancel up. Turn after we can play Sphinx. And Ajani's Welcome would have been great with the Pridemate. They also have the Priest to synergize with it. But now we're just shields up on Cancel. If the Sphinx doesn't get answered and we get to untap with double Cancel, the game's pretty much over. So we could wait until we have 10 mana, so we can play Sphinx with Cancel back up. Given that we don't have any lands in hand, that's kind of dubious. So I think we just play the Sphinx and hope it survives. And then try and slam the door shut next turn. And yeah, opponent doesn't have an answer for Sphinx and just packs him up. So some pretty quick concessions here. Hand looks decent. Turn to Archaeologists, looking pretty good too. Don't think we want to trade here, although it is a consideration given that we have Divination anyway in hand. But hopefully the Dwarven Priest can hold off the corpse at some point. Opponent could have a Hired Blade here to try and ambush Archaeologist. Do we mind if that happens? The problem is, if they just flash in Hired Blade, then what are we doing? Are we taking 5? That starts to add up. If they then have an answer for the Priests, we're pretty far behind. So I think I do attack with the Archaeologist if they want to ambush it with a Hired Blade. That's fine by me. Since we have some card draw with Divination anyway. Opponent takes it, so maybe they try and race, who knows. Don't think I take Vengeance the Corpse, so I'll just draw 2 here. Alright, opponent just had to Revitalize. And next turn hopefully the Priest helps us protect our life total. Shield Mare's fine. So our late game's looking good. Just need to pick up some counter spells. Alright, Luminous Bonds the Priest. So, do we want to trade? I don't think we do. Ooh, Sphinx is a good one too. Alright, so now I think I'm okay trading the Archaeologist for the Corpse and activating Archaeologist to draw 2 cards. Alternatively, we could of course Dwindle or take Vengeance or both. But I think I'll just get my 2 cards out of the Archaeologist and then trade. More Revitalizes, so that kind of implies that our opponent maybe has some life gain synergies in their deck. Some Regal Bloodlords perhaps. Ajani's Pridemates. Ajani can get back our archaeologist as well. Alright, so got plenty of cards to work with. Don't really have any bad options. The sooner we get Ajani in play, the better. If we play Wall plus Drake, then next turn Ajani can put counters on both creatures. We could of course Ajani minus, get back Archaeologist. But then we might lose Ajani to a removal spell on one of our creatures. So I think the play is going to be Wall plus Drake here. And then our opponent might be compelled to use a removal spell on one of these creatures instead of on one of our better ones. And once the board is more stable, we can safely Ajani minus to get back Archaeologist if we want to, or just start plussing. Yeah, next turn we also have the option of Sphinx and then attack with Drake to draw a card. Opponent does nothing. Alright, so got a wealth of options. Have to kind of ask ourselves the question, how do we lose this game? Maybe our opponent has a Cleansing Nova and wipes the board, so we don't want to put everything in play at once. So we could Ajani plus instead of minusing, work our way up towards ultimate. That seems pretty compelling. Sadly don't have a counterspell to protect him. We could play Sphinx attack with a Drake. That's pretty compelling as well. And then as soon as we find a cancel, we should be almost guaranteed to win. Alright, nothing. So now we have to ask ourselves if we want to play Ajani pre-combat to pump up our creatures or not. I think that's fine. Play Ajani, pump up our flyers. And hopefully draw into a cancel.
Stand together. Deliver us to victory.
There's a cancel, so that should be lights out. Take Vengeance Sphinx. Do we even care? I guess we care a little bit. Alright, that'll do it. Let's crack a pack. Some more gems. We're saving up for War of the Spark. Alright, 5-1. Let's see if we can go the distance. And this hand seems acceptable. Need a third land for the divination. Alright, hopefully we draw land here. Probably gonna Essence Scatter any relevant 3-drop. Opponent might have their own counterspell. Shields down on Essence Scatter here, but don't want to discard to hand size, so we'll get the Wall of Mist out there. Snapping Drake would have loved to counter that one. So now we can dwindle the Drake, or we can keep up counterspells for future plays. This Drake is going to keep pestering us until we maybe eventually play the Sphinx, but that's pretty far off. So I think we are probably better off using the dwindle and then hoping that they don't have a super great follow-up, or maybe one that we can dwindle. Let's block the chaplain. Opponent splashing red apparently. And what's the play? Priest, alright, that's not too bad. We do kind of want to hit our land drops. The sketchy part here is that our opponent had a tap land for turn 5, so they could still have a relevant 5 mana play that they weren't able to play last turn. So it is tempting to want to just keep up a counterspell, but we also need to hit our land drops so we don't fall too far behind. So we'll just divination and hope to draw land here. And then this turn is going to be a little scary, but hopefully we can come back with our cheap removal. Alright, so didn't quite find the lands we were hoping to draw here. We can replay the Wall of Mist. If they counter it, fine, then we'll maybe take Vengeance the Dwarven Priest. If it resolves, then we can maybe Revitalize to hope to draw into a land. Opponent is going to fire off Essence Scatter. I mean, we could still Revitalize, but I think we want to prevent some damage now. We still have Dwindle for a future creature that we need to deal with. Of course, if we hit a land with Revitalize, that would be great. Could also just keep up Essence Scatter. Don't want to discard to hand size. So this is close. The Dwarven Priest does block most of these creatures pretty well. If they kill the Dwarven Priest, then we're taking quite a bit of damage. So I think I just take Vengeance. But it's definitely a close call. Alright, opponent has nothing. Well, I could go for the Priest, or we could Revitalize. I think we Revitalize. Try and find that land. Still nothing. Well, that's awkward. Opponent's pretty likely to have their own Dwindles and Luminous Bonds, so discarding Invoke the Divine is not where we want to be. I guess we ditch the Invoke. The real issue is if they have something like, I don't know, Patient Rebuilding, some sort of enchantment that's not just a removal spell. If they want to fight over this, that's fine, and we get to resolve the Priest. Then they maybe kill the Priest with like a Luminous Bonds, but then we can still play some Dwindles. So this worked out okay. Would have loved to not have to discard the Invoke the Divine earlier. And our hand is pretty stacked, so if we can survive, then we're in good shape. Looks like just an attack for 1, so we're kind of doing it. Opponent might just have a bunch of counterspells in hand, so we can take our time, maybe play Sphinx with cancel backup. I'm happy to fight over this since we have a Dwindle anyway. Serpent probably gets countered. Do we run it out anyway? Yeah, I guess so. If they counter this, then they maybe don't counter the Sphinx. Alright, so we trade some cancels back and forth. More cancels in hand. Yeah, just gonna pass a turn here. Only have triple blue, so we can't double cancel, sadly. Probably not a great idea to tap out for the Sphinx here. I think we take our time, our opponent's not pressuring us in any way. So I don't feel the need to tap out for Sphinx, can just wait. Comfortable chill. Yeah, I don't mind fighting over this. Still draws him a card, so... And they didn't counter back, so could mean that they don't have an answer for Sphinx. Or we could again wait until we have Sphinx with cancel backup to play it extra safe. 8 mana currently, so we would need 2 more lands including a blue source. 17 cards remaining, 19 cards remaining. I'm tempted to wait. Yeah, maybe they're splashing red for Banefire. Could definitely be the case. Luminous Bonds the Priests, so this is an interesting spot. I think we let that happen. And then we can maybe just dwindle the Exclusion Mage and see what the response is. Just try and be patient. So now their clock is reduced to just a 1/3 lifelinker, which is manageable. We're 1 island away from Sphinx plus cancel. Well, definitely need to counter that. Opponents also maybe waited so they could play a Djinn with counterspell backup. So I'm not expecting this to resolve. But then we can resolve our own Sphinx. So it's going to be Sphinx versus Djinn. And we might win that battle, we'll see. If they have a Luminous Bonds or a Dwindle left, then we're in trouble. Alright, opponent considering using the Djinn perhaps. Can be used at instant speed. Monolith. Still haven't seen what the red is for. If it is a Banefire, then we're probably toast. So we could dwindle the Djinn, start attacking with the Sphinx. It's probably fine. They still get to use a Djinn, but at least we get to draw some cards with the Sphinx. I guess we could attack first. Although, if they have like a Lightning Strike, that's bad, because then they can kill the Sphinx. And they could be splashing for a Lightning Strike for all we know. So I think we try this first. Attack, draw a card. And then we get to play a Surge Mare. Might come down to decking. And in that case, of course, we might wanna stop drawing cards. Still have an Ajani that can maybe win us the game. Ooh, Palladia, so that's what the red is for. That's also what the green is for, apparently. Alright, that's unexpected. So, 6/6 Vigilance, Trample, Hexproof as long as it hasn't dealt any damage. Can block it with the Sphinx. So they can still use the Djinn of Wishes if they want to. Alright, Wind Reader Sphinx definitely gonna play defense now, and if they ever answer the Sphinx, we're in trouble. Surge Mare can be blocked by green creatures, which includes Palladia. There's a Ajani. Alright. Well, game plan acquired. We could minus anything we can get back. Not really anything too exciting. So we'll Ajani. And we can plus on Sphinx and Surge Mare. Does Surge Mare attack? Then Chaplain could attack Ajani. I think we just play defense. Opponent maybe trying to hit a counterspell, finds a Take Vengeance instead. And now that card's quote-unquote wasted, since they can't cast it, so that worked out pretty well.
Our kinship ensures our victory.
Gotta wait for Ajani to say his voice line, don't wanna talk over him.
Look how far you have come.
And we'll keep a land in hand for Surge Mare in case we end up looting, but I don't think we want to attack here. I think we cast all our cancels. We have Salvager of Secrets that could get a cancel back at some point. I think we still pump Surgemare over the Rustwing Falcon. Could attack with the Surgemare now. And then we've got the Falcon to block the Chaplain. I guess we play Falcon first, see if it resolves. Alright, let's get in there. Chin of Wishes reveals Make a Stand. Alright. Cast it. They get a free block with the Chaplain, I guess. It works for me. And the final wish finds a Starcrown Stag. Oof. That's a problem. End of turn Starcrown Stag. And now Palladia can attack past the Sphinx. And Ajani dies. This does have Trample. I guess we could just be dead ourselves if they figure it out. Yeah, they're not attacking Ajani. I guess we'll take action, see what we can draw. Yeah, that's game. So the end of turn Starcrown Stag got us pretty good. Can block the Stag, but we still take 7, which is exactly enough here. Alright, GG's. That was an interesting game for sure. But even if they just kill Ajani there, then our win condition would be trying to deck our opponent, which may or may not end up working. And this hand's pretty awkward. No blue mana with a Surgemare and a Wall of Mist. So this might be a mulligan, sadly. Alright, this is better. Don't want to flood out too badly. So we'll bottom that, even though we'll eventually need a 4th land. Play Island in case we draw a Surgemare at some point. Suspicious Bookcase, we can invoke the Divine. Pegasus Courser. I was about to say our hand's fine except against flying creatures, and Courser's definitely a good one there. At least they don't have any high-powered creature to attack us with next turn. Alright, so what's our plan? Dwindle, again, doesn't do much against Courser. So we'll probably just Divination and look for a better answer. For mana. Drillmaster. Alright, I think we probably play the Cavalry. Then next turn we can go Scatter plus Invoke or Scatter plus Dwindle. They had the opportunity to play a Starcrown Stag but didn't. We're gonna be taking 3 here, at the very least. Bugler finds Falcon, more flying creatures. Alright, so it's not looking great here. Can't even make any good attacks back because of the Bugler now. If we answer the Courser, then we're only taking 1 turn. If we also kill the Bookcase with Invoke. But again, not a lot of clean answers to the Courser in our deck. Just gotta try and block it with flying creatures. Opponent could of course have some Luminous Bonds that we want to invoke the Divine instead of killing the Bookcase. I think we will. But it's definitely a close call. Alright. Got Asa Scatter. Oof. Well, now Dwindle on Falcon looks decent, I guess. Pack Beast is just a 2-3, but it can get back Bookcase, so that's worthy of an Asa Scatter. Alright, so we're just one Drake away from a stable, since we can dwindle the Falcon, and then if we can just block the Courser, then we can stem the bleeding. Council is good insurance, I guess. So we're still taking 3 turns, so we're under a 4-turn clock. More Pack Beasts, gotta keep countering it since the Bookcase is still a threat. The thing is, if we dwindle Courser, they can still hit us for 2 a turn. It would slow down the clock a little bit. If we dwindle the Bugler, we can start attacking ourselves, or we can just jam the Serpent. Probably just jam the Serpent. Explosive Apparatus. Can also go face, so it doesn't bode well. Down to 6. Just a land draw. Yeah, Pegasus Courser is definitely pretty good against us. The fact that it doesn't get stopped by Dwindle is kind of the main issue here. So we could make Serpent unblockable. Don't know if that does much. I'll happily trade Serpent for Drillmaster, Bugler, and Apparatus. Don't think that's happening. Could just dwindle the Bugler so we can attack with our 2/2s. That might just be the play. They still have the Falcon to block with as well. This is probably not happening, but we'll give it a shot. Our turn 2 Wall of Mist didn't do a whole lot of blocking this game. Take 3, down to 3, essentially at 1 life. Need something like a Revitalize here instead of land. So we can make Serpent unblockable, but that's still only 4 damage. Alright, well, didn't really happen this game. Couldn't stop the turn 3 Pegasus Courser. If we're on the play this game and we get to cancel it, it's a different game. Alright, GG's. Alright, so our run sadly ended at 5-3. Still had some nice games in there, and Ajani definitely showed up pretty big whenever we drew him. Let's crack some packs. Goreclaw, definitely a scary card to face in draft as well. So overall our deck was pretty decent, a bit weak to Pegasus Courser in particular. Could have used a few more flyers or luminous bonds instead of dwindles to get rid of that. But for now, wanna thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day. I also wanna thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/LegenVD.